But that just means she was in the middle of a battle 9 months pregnant. Like, holy shit. We're gonna calm the down.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Bjorn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
It's been a long road, but we are finally at the season finale of Last Kingdom. I know that both of us wanted to just binge this entire thing the day it came out. But here we are 10 weeks later because we do this for you and we do it for ourselves because it's fun. But we're really excited to just jump right into things. We got some mead for the occasion. But before we do, we have something quick to go over with you guys. We got some new plans for some stuff ahead, and it's going to be interesting, I hope.
The original plan, after we finished Last Kingdom, was to go straight into the Netflix series Ragnarok because we had watched the trailer for that, and it looked awesome, so that was next on our list to do. But they are releasing the new season of Norsemen, and we're just gonna have to jump on that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we're doing that next.
Because we need a little bit of a break from the dramas, and we need a little bit of just good old-fashioned humor, and...
What better show for that
exactly.
than Norsemen?
And we've been waiting for that for like 6 months.
Can't wait. After Last Kingdom, and while we're waiting the couple weeks for Norsemen to come out, we are going to do a very in-depth dive into Valhalla Rising. Because it's awesome. Because it's so good.
And it deserves it.
It so deserves it.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to follow the discussion, go watch it now. Well, don't watch it now. Watch this first, but go watch it after.
Without further ado, Last Kingdom, Season 4, Episode 10.
Oh, this is good.
Destiny is all.
Do you intend to set a fire? Yes. Our attempts to attack have been futile. The Danes show no sign of surrender. Perhaps this will force their hand. The fire will catch and the town will be destroyed. 30 days we have tried and failed. I do this, and in time Winchester will rise again, stronger for her suffrage.
But yeah, I mean, like, this kind of comes into the idea of the whole Vikings with their burning and raiding and pillaging and stuff. And, like, it kind of shows a very good point of, like, you burn down the town and then the town is burnt down. Mm-hmm. Which is, like, yeah, very obvious. But, like, there's nothing to do with it afterwards. Like, it's actually one of the reasons why a lot of monasteries, when they were raided, they weren't burned. Because if you torch the place... you have to spend time and resources to, like, rebuild it before you can restock it.
Right.
So the more logical thing, at least when raiding, the Vikings took kind of advantage of, was to just go in, take as much as they can, but leave it intact so that the Christians would come and be like, oh no, they took all the wealth, well, let's put more wealth into it.
Yeah. And
it would be restocked for the next season, so you could come back next year and be like, nice. Nailed it. If you burn it down, it's going to take years for them to rebuild.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it's just, like, ridiculous that you want to burn down your own capital. I don't know. Like, I get it. He wants it back, but, like, he's not going to get back anything. He's going to get back a pile of ashes.
Yeah. And so last week we were talking a little bit about how Winchester was basically the seat of power for Wessex. It was the seat of the king and everything like that. And that is true. One of the things that I did want to note is I remember reading a bit ago about how, at least in the earlier part of the century, Winchester was the seat of power, but the seat of power was also mobile. So it basically traveled with the king. So wherever the king was, the power was, essentially.
Air Force One, yeah.
Basically, yeah, more or less. So even if Winchester is taken, it doesn't necessarily mean that Wessex is lost.
Right. It's like wherever the king is, that's now the most important place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense. And I can't really see that being too different as, you know, the age wore on. But definitely later on in the Viking period and past the Viking period, the capitals did become much more prominent, much more important as far as that was concerned. But yeah, just the fact that around this time, maybe a little bit earlier, the seat was kind of mobile. It didn't necessarily have ties to specifically Winchester, even though it was still a very important place to
Interesting.
hold. Granted, his mother is there, and they have other captives as well, so...
Yeah, and also it's like his birth town.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's where all the relics are, and, like, his father's buried, and, like, all the written accounts and everything.
Sure.
Like, it's got plenty of value, which
For
it
sure.
makes even less sense if you want to burn it down.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Leave the town! Or on his command, blaze them!
There's no reason that dude couldn't have shouted his message from behind a shield. There's no reason whatsoever that he couldn't hold a shield, too.
Yeah. I also like that she managed to shoot him in, like, one of the only chain mail areas that he had.
Shot through the heart! And you're to blame, Frida, you gave Vikings. Oh, wait. You gave Danes a bad name. Yeah, he just wanted to die. Like, he was bored of the siege. And he was annoyed with the king. He wanted to die.
He just wanted to deliver the message and be done with it.
He just wanted to, he just wanted to die.
Yeah.
755, Kenilworth and the West Saxons deprived Sigbeord of his kingdom because of his unlawful deeds. Kenilworth often fought great battles in Wales. Please, this is so dull. I want to pull out my own eyes.
I think that
Mad
was...
respect.
I think that was my thoughts when reading that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so first off, she's reading the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which is awesome.
That's kind of cool, actually.
That's wicked funny. That's a good touch. Yeah, absolutely. That's like the mentality when you're going through the Chronicles. There, it's just like this is so mind numbing.
But also, like, they couldn't add more detail or interest in this thing. Really, this is what I'm reading.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that's kind of what it was like. Like they didn't have like this was the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles and stuff was it was a historical account. It wasn't supposed to be like embellished or like interesting to read. It was just a chronicle to chart down history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
not like a saga. It's not like a folklore or any kind of like tale. It was just
Yeah.
cut and dry and to the point, which is great, but also like horrible. Yeah, it'd be nice to get some more details, but like I guess ink and vellum cost a lot to make. I don't know.
This is also true.
There could be any number of excuses. It would have been great to have some reasoning why of like, you know, these two people had this disagreement and so therefore this war happened. You know, just like just a little bit more would have been nice. But oh well, we can just sit and wonder why.
We need to kill a hostage. And she will get their attention.
They threatened to use fire.
Sitrika, I need Uhtred to come out and fight. This will force his hand.
I don't know if you've noticed, but it's kind of a recurring theme of them trying to draw out the other party by just pissing them off.
We still do that. This is what internet trolls were like before the internet. Just trying to piss off the other person enough to make them do something stupid.
Yeah.
This is my punishment. I abandoned the children of Mercia, and this is God's vengeance for that mistake.
God would not do that, Lord.
King saying that this is his punishment for abandoning the Mercians to their fate so late. The priest said, "Oh, God wouldn't do that." During the time, the Christians believed that the Vikings were punishment sent by God to reprimand Christians for their laxity in their faith, basically.
Right.
So that was actually a contemporary widespread belief. So it's totally reasonable for the king to be saying, "Oh, this is our punishment for me being lax or hesitant in my duties." It's God's way of punishing. Because back in the day, God was ruthless. He wasn't this like all benevolent, loves everybody, hippie dude. He was like,
You must follow the commandments or I punish you.
yeah, you do this or I burn your house down.
Yeah. And that's actually a thread that the series has carried since season 1, because even in season 1, and in the first book, I believe I remember reading, King Alfred also had that same belief. He believed that he was being punished because with the sickness, with the illness that he had, because he could not stop sleeping around. He actually was sleeping with other women.
I forgot about that.
Wow. And he thought that the illness that he had was punishment from God for that.
Yeah.
For him not being strong enough to stop doing that, essentially.
Yeah. So I like that they put that into there. But I also wanted to just call it the priest. Because, like, he of all people should be like, yeah, you're right. Sorry, but, like, yeah, you make good sense.
I just want to make this is a very quick, small note. The fabric of the tent that they're under currently looks very much like linen, and it's making me real happy. It's such a weird thing to be paying attention to, and I think it's just because I'm so involved in
Textile work.
I've been very involved in textile work recently. So just like looking at different fabrics and stuff like that, things that look like linen just make me so happy. And that involves Edward's shirt. I don't know if it is linen or not, but it looks like linen, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, for a TV show, if it looks like linen, that's definitely a plus. It beats a lot of the crap that we see. But yeah, I mean, especially for a king too, because linen was a very expensive cloth to make. It wasn't something that like everybody had access to. It took a lot of time to produce, and to harvest, and to cultivate, and to
weave and dye and
to
take through the process.
Just to produce. So like his clothing probably would have been linen because it was a way to show off your wealth and to show that you could afford those really nice luxuries. Whereas the canvas, I guess, the tent, probably would have been something more like wool, just because it's something you have plentiful access to. It doesn't take as long to harvest and to produce and everything, and there's a ton of it. So it's a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward, and especially something like a tent canvas. It can be very rough woven and.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like really luxuriously spun or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Send out both the children. I will walk into Winchester. Alone.
You gonna be alright?
Yep.
You need a minute?
I'm good. I'm just thinking about how we started off the season with him not really caring about Athelstan at all, and kind of wanting him gone and out of his life.
Oh, the king?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now.
Well, it's just like him playing
It's just sweet.
Well, it's him playing a part, for being the king, and it's like, oh, that's not my legitimate heir. I can't have that. Because that was the whole thing, is like he was broken over it to start.
Yeah.
It was his child from his first actual legitimate marriage. And then he was kind of forced by his mom to cast him aside, so
right.
Now he can kind of be like honest with himself. You're right, it's precious.
It's growth.
Yeah.
It's nice.
We'll see. We'll see how much growth.
Yeah, we'll see how much growth.
You're fast. I think you're not trying.
Do you want to take apart that little sword fight scene?
That was terrible. Like, even Uhtred called him out on being choreographed. It seems like you're not even trying to do this. When the actor's character calls you out for your swordplay, you know it's bad.
The first thing that you learn about sword choreography, fighting, whatever you want to call it, is the large arcs only give you away. That's not what you do. It gives away your intention for how you intend to strike, and it wastes a lot of your energy and a lot of your time.
Yeah. I mean, well, the show is trying to imply that he wasn't actually trying to, kill him, so.
Set the haystacks close to the gates. Add shit and lime so they may choke on the stench.
Is she even alive? Is she even alive?
This is not even like a historical accuracy thing. If you're pregnant, you're gonna be friggin' retching from that.
That's gotta be bad for the baby.
I've never been pregnant myself, but being a woman and hearing a lot about pregnancy, you would not be able to stand there and just smell all of this wafting stench and be okay.
Burning lye. No.
Yep.
Nope.
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 That is a very interesting tactic to break up a massive battle that I had never actually considered before. Nor, I'm not sure would work,
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
but
Yeah, it's very debatable whether that would work or not. But it did, so
here
story.
we are.
Here we are.
It is an interesting device to use.
Yeah.
You know, shield walls were absolutely a thing. It's an interesting device to use to break up the fight. The battle scene that we just witnessed was more of just...
A mosh.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of people with weapons just kind of flailing around a little bit and not really doing too much.
Yeah.
I was trying to watch some pairs here and there, and they really didn't seem to be doing much at all.
I saw Uhtred flip a dude over his shoulder, like, spiraling by holding onto his wrist, so after that I just stopped paying attention to the actual choreography.
Yeah, I was mostly just trying to watch the background actors, and it was basically just like the director kind of going like, now flail.
Yeah, hit each other's shield. And I mean, like, there's nothing to say that combats like this wouldn't just dissolve into a complete cluster.
They
either.
would.
Exactly,
Yeah.
they absolutely would. So, like, all the rehearsed combat prowess that we have, and all the treatises that later periods go on, and like the stuff that we try to emulate when we do combat fighting, that's all well and good when it's, you know, organized and when it's structured, when there's like a couple people only involved. But like even with when we do like groups of 2 or groups of 3 or something, even with that small numbers, it breaks down real quick.
Yeah, but the other thing to keep in mind, and I like the fact that you bring up when you guys do sparring, because I don't really spar, but when you guys do sparring, sometimes what you guys would do is, 3 against 3 or 4 against 4, just like every man for himself type of a situation. And it is always amazing how fast that ends. Because people go down super fast. You're not going to have, pairs wailing at each other's shields for 10 minutes straight without landing a single blow. People go down really quickly from their injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we call it like any kind of like blow is going to put a person down. Mm-hmm. So like that's kind of why as well. And in battle, like you're fighting for your life, so adrenaline is pumping and everything like that. So like, a wound to your leg is going to really hurt you, and like maybe you'll be able to fight on, maybe not, who knows. But in general, if you're just kind of counting like a wound gets you killed basically, stuff you're not gonna last. Like our combat sequences, they last maybe like a minute if we're lucky. Mm-hmm. If we draw it out.
Yeah, if you really try.
Yeah, exactly. If there's like half of that is just like the 2 walls like tentatively like and then everybody hits and just falls down. There's usually there's one survivor maybe. Yeah. Honestly.
It's usually the spear.
Out of a group of 8. So like
it's usually the guy with a spear.
Yeah. Something that I do like about this is that like this isn't anything like the season finale fight that we saw in Vikings. This isn't this isn't tens of thousands of people. This is like a very concentrated, relatively small group than what you'd expect. Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely something more akin to what it would have been like. There are always these grand accounts saying that, the men were in the thousands. And that just, a lot of times it doesn't make sense. If this was like a war for the nation, involving like the entire country, then maybe, men in the thousands, numbering on each side, possibly. But something like this, it makes sense that there'd be a smaller Rand-setting army, really. A lot of those figures from historical documents, many people believe, were exaggerated for storytelling purposes. So all those numbers are kind of exaggerated. So it's nice to see like a very big monumental fight with like about 100 people or something. Like, it's like this is like a monumental like final battle for everything, and it fills up maybe like half a city block, not even. Mm-hmm. As opposed to like the entire coast of Norway. the one girl in the pit.
Off the line! Off the lines!
I can't stop thinking about it now. You said it, and I can't stop thinking about it.
That's all I could think of when he charged in. I'm just like, that is me going into the... No, that is you going into the pit.
Yep. When you're trying to find your one friend of the pit, flipping the dude over your shoulder. When you're trying to ask if your friend has a water. Stop it, come on, we're watching the show.
I'm not drinking wine today, this is awful.
You didn't eat dinner today.
I'm not afraid of that. I have not lost faith in what comes after. Do it.
How did you like your first battle?
I swear it will be my last.
You don't bandage over the clothes.
Yeah, that seems kind of weird.
Sorry, you don't bandage over the clothes. You're gonna graft her clothing to her skin, you idiot.
Destiny. It's all.
It's pretty good. That was really good.
It was.
It's a good ending.
Yeah. She didn't give birth in the middle of battle.
She did not. She gave birth in the middle of the field after the battle. Close.
Close enough.
Very close. But that just means she was in the middle of a battle 9 months pregnant. Like, holy shit. Britta, calm the down.
That was a good season.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the season, honestly.
Yeah. A lot happened.
Just in general. I remember when we first started it, we thought that it was going to be all about getting Bebbenberg back. Mm-hmm. Nope.
How wrong we were. Oh, no, that was great, honestly. It was really enjoyable. It was, like, beautifully done. It was, like, really captivating. Like, each episode, I feel like, had a ton going on. That was all really, like, crucial and really vital. Besides the plague. I hate the plague. The sickness. That was the stupidest thing. It was the absolute stupidest thing. I'm sorry, guys. Like, it was such a cop-out. But everything else was real good. Real good. Nothing else I feel like seemed like a filler. Everything kind of had a point and had structure to it.
Yeah. Everything that happened had its place and its reasoning for being there, essentially. But yeah, like, as far as the historical accuracy was concerned, the big beats in this season were the Battle of Tettenhall, of course, which was kind of like wishy-washy, like we said. Then we had Ethelflaed taking the throne, which happened with quite a bit of build-up and fanfare, but we got there in the end.
Yeah.
And then the battle for Winchester, like you said last week, didn't really happen in history.
I like how, like, the characters have really, like, stayed consistent with their mentalities and their personas and everything, too. You know, like, Uhtred went through a bunch of developments, but it's still very much Uhtred. Same with Britta. Britta hasn't changed a lick.
Oh, no, she's still the same woman that we met in season 1.
Exactly. She's the exact same person, just, like, even more dedicated to that cause. Even the king didn't really change too much. I'm kind of interested with his development, too, because we thought he'd kind of be more of, like, a benevolent king that's, like, loved by everybody and kind of goes on this big conquest to, like, retake England. But I feel like they're kind of leaning more towards the strain of, like, he's just a very kind of, like, not brutal, but, like, forceful in his ambitions. He's supposed to be this really great figure after Alfred. You know, Alfred kind of, like, set up the game and, like, created, like, the foothold that Edward would then use to, like, build off of and, like, finish his father's dream, basically. And I feel like we kind of took that historically as that he was this, like, magnificent, wonderful leader that everybody loved and, like, admired and respected. But I feel like they're kind of taking a very different direction. They're still going to kind of end up with that being the historical side of things, but just in a very different light, almost, if that makes sense.
I do feel like he has grown in the way during this season. He definitely went from listening to bad counsel to at least trying to think for himself.
Yeah, I mean,
and taking that charge. Now he needs to learn what to do with it.
Yeah, like, he definitely grew without a doubt. Like, he got a ton of experience just in this one season alone. But you're very right. He's still, like, in the adolescence of that kind of routine, because even still, like, even at the very end, you know, he's absolutely, like, crumbling under pressure. So I feel like he still has a lot to go.
All right, so final rating for the season.
for the final, I'm just gonna end it just where we were with the 7. I think just overall it was a really good season. It had a ton of information and a ton of really cool things that were very historically driven. It had a fair amount of things that kind of fell back. I feel like this season more than others, but I thought it was great. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna end the series with the 7. I feel like
I'm probably gonna do the same. I almost wanna drop it to like a 6.5-ish area, just for, you know, the Battle of Winchester never really having happened, and the Battle of Tetton Hall having armies involved that really weren't involved in the first place.
yeah, like there's no reason for the Welsh to be a part of the story at all.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. They just kind of crammed them in there just to have them in there for the sake of the Viking storyline. I'm not 100% sure exactly why they were involved. Aside from the pitfalls, the Battle of Tetton Hall was still maybe like 75% historically accurate, I want to say. You know?
But there wasn't a lot of detail to go off of, so.
From what we know, at least. And then we have Ethelfled taking the throne, which absolutely happened. You know, Edward showing some growth. So there is definitely a lot in here that is still good. And like you said, the mentalities between the Danes and the Saxons is definitely like a huge thing, but they're also seeing them kind of growing together, seeing that, you know, the children, you know, kind of starting to kind of put that whole thing aside, like, hey, we grew up in this country, we've seen both sides, could you just stop?
Boomers, am I right?
Could you just, like, not? So, you know, seeing things like that, that's actually like a huge thing to, you know, see, because you would have had that back in the Viking Age, and it makes absolutely and total sense. For the season as a whole, I'm okay giving it a 7.
Solid.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos, and we will see you in the next one.